Welcome to Wisdom for Your Day. Sit back and get ready for some knowledge from real people with life lesson you can apply to your journey today. In the 1980s, Shawn was navigating the Marcy houses in Brooklyn. By 2019, Forbes recognized him as the first hip-hop billionaire, mapping an empire that stretched across music, sports management, and luxury goods. This immense wealth resulted from a methodology of treating art strictly as big business, moving beyond the limits of simple musical talent. We are going to break down the exact mechanisms, daily routines, and corporate structures Jay-Z utilized to go from an unsigned artist to a highly diversified corporate leader. We will track his precise strategy for scaling ventures, his uncompromising rules for retaining asset ownership, and his psychological framework for converting business friction into leverage. His trajectory proves that extreme professional dominance is built by engineering your own system architecture rather than relying on industry gatekeepers. Between 1994 and 1996, every major record label systematically passed on Jay-Z's music. Instead of accepting the market's verdict, he interpreted the lack of a standard record deal as a necessary forcing function for his own independence. He partnered with Damon Dash and Biggs Burke to found Roc-A-Fella Records. This was an independent vehicle constructed specifically to bypass the executives who rejected him. Relying entirely on his own street capital, he absorbed all financial risk to self-fund his debut album, Reasonable Doubt. He applied immense discipline to his product, treating rap lyrics like poetry and constantly iterating lines in his head until the craftsmanship was airtight. From the beginning, his mandate was clear. Hip-hop was big business. He structured contracts to demand equity and immersed himself in the basics of corporate law and finance. By assembling his own independent platform, he codified an operational standard that prioritized strict self-reliance over corporate validation. In high-stakes business negotiations, Jay-Z operates on a strict, unwavering mandate. Asset ownership always supersedes temporary executive positioning. In late 2004, friction within Roc-A-Fella led to a corporate split, ending with Island Def Jam acquiring the remaining 50% of the label. During the restructuring, he was offered the highly prestigious role of president and CEO of Def Jam. In response, he offered to surrender the executive title entirely if the label would simply give him the master recordings for Reasonable Doubt. The offer was declined, but the attempt revealed his priority. Holding intellectual property generates decades of leverage, while executive titles offer only temporary salary. He applied this same aggressive approach to reclaiming intellectual property when his deals concluded, specifically with his clothing brand, Rocawear. In 2007, he sold the Rocawear trademark to Iconics for $204 million. Over the next decade, costly legal disputes broke out over the brand's assets. Instead of retreating, he settled in 2019, buying back the rights for just $15 million. Through this calculated repurchase, he regained total control of a core cultural asset for a fraction of what he originally sold it for. True corporate leverage requires sacrificing short-term prestige and upfront cash to control the underlying intellectual property. Musicians typically rely on a linear revenue stream of album sales and tour tickets. Jay-Z abandoned this model to construct a diversified, interconnected business ecosystem. He expanded rapidly into lifestyle and luxury markets, moving past standard artist merchandise to co-found the high-end champagne brand Armand de Brignac. To scale the brand globally, he utilized a risk-sharing structure, partnering with the conglomerate LVMH to distribute the product while retaining a 50% stake. He executed the exact same structural maneuver to launch his management firm, Roc Nation, partnering directly with the entertainment giant Live Nation. In 2015, he entered the technology sector by acquiring the streaming platform Tidal, aligning with high-profile artists as co-owners to drive initial user acquisition. 6 years later, he orchestrated a highly profitable financial maneuver, selling a majority stake in Tidal to Block for $237 million, while securing a seat on their corporate board. By executing joint ventures with major corporate entities, he scales massive operations using their capital and distribution networks, shielding his own portfolio from total financial exposure. This diagram shows how these individual ventures fortify each other. The management firm, the apparel lines, and the technology platforms create a self-sustaining loop driven by his central cultural influence. Sustainable billionaire status is achieved by distributing operational risk among established industry giants while retaining valuable equity. The engine driving these structural moves is a highly specific psychological framework. As he puts it, I was rejected, not dejected. I always believed in myself. In 1999, he pleaded guilty to third-degree assault. It was a severe personal misstep and a public relations crisis that could have easily derailed his mainstream viability. He responded to the negative publicity by doubling down on his work ethic. Within months of the conviction, he released multi-platinum records, forcing the public narrative back to his professional output. He applies this same emotional detachment to business investments, like his ownership stake in the Brooklyn Nets. He noted that even if the team went 0 for 82 on the court, the investment was still a success. The fractional equity and the permanent brand alignment with Brooklyn outweighed any temporary seasonal losses. He maintains a daily habit of stripping emotional weight from every rejection or legal challenge, interpreting them strictly as neutral data to be debriefed for future advantage. Resilience in business is a calculated algorithm where every outcome, even failure, is systematically converted into long-term equity. Over 3 decades, Shawn Carter evolved from an independent street hustler into a diversified corporate venture investor. He built this architecture by ruthlessly prioritizing the retention of his core intellectual property. He engineered an interconnected corporate ecosystem that aggressively shifted financial risk onto major corporate partners, and he maintained a strict psychological discipline, refusing to accept failure as a permanent state and reframing all friction as redirection. The major labels that refused to sign him in 1995 are now dwarfed by the global billion-dollar empire he built entirely without their permission. His career provides a definitive blueprint for modern strategic management. You too can apply the life lessons to your life today. Become a champion of change and be the change you want to see. This has been Wisdom for Your Day. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. For more, visit us on YouTube by the same name. True generational wealth is established by owning the board rather than just playing the game.